Good morning, Lesor Mamay. Half a day. Welcome to your session. And I'll call this fourth day, third regular session to order. Please let us all rise for a moment of silent prayer. Thank you, everyone. I now recognize the clerk to please call the roll.
Representative Vada. Representative Aldon. Representative Atal.
Present.
Representative Benavente. Representative Angelo Camacho.
Present.
Representative Diego Camacho.
Present.
Representative Joel Camacho. Representative Vicente Camacho.
Present.
Representative Castro.
Estiga.
Representative Joseph Flores.
Present.
Representative Marissa Flores.
Present.
Representative Manglonia.
Present.
Representative Vogel.
Present.
Representative Omar.
Present.
Representative Probes.
Present.
Representative Sablan.
Estiga.
Representative Nicolas. Mr. Speaker.
Present.
Representative Yang Tamay.
Ngangiye.
Representative Yumo.
Present.
Mr. Speaker, all 20 members are present.
Thank you, clerk. With all 20 members present, that's a quorum for us to move forward. And before we proceed to item 2, I'd like to recognize the floor leader for suspension of rules. Floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I now move to suspend Rule 3, Section 6, so that the House amends its agenda to include unnumbered bills and resolutions not filed with the House Clerk's office 72 hours in advance when a notice for session was given and posted. So moved.
Thank you, floor leader. A motion has been made for the suspension of Rule 3, Section 6, and it has been seconded. Any discussions? Ready? All right, clerk, please call the roll.
Representative Vada.
Yes.
Representative Aldon. Representative Atal.
Yes.
Representative Benavente.
Good.
Representative Angelo Camacho.
Yes.
Representative Diego Camacho.
Yes.
Representative Joel Camacho.
Good.
Representative Vicente Camacho.
Yes.
Representative Castro.
Yes.
Representative Joseph Flores.
Yes.
Representative Marissa Flores.
Yes.
Representative Manglonia.
Yes.
Representative Vogel.
Yes.
Representative Omar.
Hungan.
Representative Probes.
Yes.
Representative Sablan.
Hungan.
Representative Nicolas. Representative Yang Tamay.
Aware.
Representative Yumo. Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, all 20 members voted yes.
Thank you, clerk. With all 20 members present voting yes, the motion carries. We now proceed to item number 2, public comments. Podium is open. You'll be given 5 minutes. Please state your name and the entity you represent. Looks like there is none. So we'll move down to item number 3, adoption of journals. There is none. Item number 4, introduction of bills. Anybody with an unnumbered bill, please raise your hand. Recognize Representative John Paul Sablan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Officially introducing an unnumbered bill, a bill for an act to remove the exemption of certified Energy Star devices and solar electric power producing hardware from the imposition of the excise tax. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative John Paul Sablan. Anybody else? Recognize Representative Vincent Odan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to also introduce an unnumbered bill to require all vessels and or motorboats to possess and utilize a global positioning system GPS. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Vincent Odan. Any further? Recognize the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Introducing an unnumbered bill to provide for the issuance of certificates as certified public accountants, to regulate the practice of accountancy in the public interest, to establish a board of accountancy and prescribe its powers and duties, and for other purposes, introduced by myself and several others. Thank you.
Thank you, floor leader. Any other unnumbered bills under introduction of bills? House bills. Ready? Okay, so with that, I will have the memo out as to where these bills will be going to in terms of the committees. We're now Was that? Yeah. Now we'll proceed to item B under introduction of bills, House local bills, and I recognize Representative Julie.
Thank you, Speaker. I would like to officially introduce House Local Bill 23-41, a local appropriation bill for an act for the first senatorial district to allow for reprogramming of funds previously appropriated by Rhoda Local Law 23-01 to facilitate the renovation of the Rhoda Guest House facility in Finasiso, pre-filed by myself.
Thank you, Representative Julie Ogle. And any further under local bills? None? Ready? Okay, I recognize Representative Julie again.
Also, Mr. Speaker, if I may, I would like to request for suspension of the rules to send this appropriation or reprogramming appropriation bill to the local delegation. There's an urgency for this reprogramming of funds within this bill. The reason for that is currently CHC has given the municipality up to the end of March to renovate their facility in Finasiso, to transfer the long-term patients from one of the hotels here in Saipan, and we have a shortage of funds in the original appropriated amount. We've discovered there's other issues with the facility or the structure, so that's the purpose and intent of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Julie Ogle. And with that, I recognize the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to suspend Rule 8, Section 1, so that this bill becomes the property of the proper delegation and bypasses the Ways and Means. So moved.
Thank you, floor leader. Motion has been made to suspend Rule 8, Section 1, and it has been seconded. Any discussions? Ready? Okay. All in favor for the motion made by the floor leader, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. The motion carries. Thank you. With nothing further under local bills. Any under House legislative initiatives? None? Any under item number 5, introduction of resolutions? Any resolutions? Looks like there's none. We move down to item number 6, messages from the governor. We have none. Item number 7, Senate communications. I recognize the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have one item under Senate Communications, and that is Senate Communication 23-74.
Thank you, clerk. And with that, I'd like to recognize the floor leader for the motion to accept Senate communications.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House accept Senate Communication 2374 to become the property of the House. So moved.
Thank you, floor leader. A motion has been made to accept Senate Communication 23-74, and it has been seconded. Any discussions? Ready? All in favor to accept Senate Communication 23-74, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. The motion carries. Thank you, colleagues. With that, we move down to item number 8, House communications. We have none. Item number 9, communications from the judicial branch. We have none. Item number 10, communications from department and agencies. We have none. Item number 11, miscellaneous communications. We have none. We'll proceed to item number 12, reports of standing committee. And I recognize the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Under item 12, reports of standing committees, we have 3 standing committee reports ready for House action. Standing committee reports 2370, 71, and 72.
Thank you, clerk. And with that, I recognize the floor leader for the adoption of standing committee reports. Floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the adoption of Standing Committee Report number 2370, reporting on House Bill number 2382, entitled "To amend the Fire Safety Code to apply the International Fire Code guiding standard in the Commonwealth." Your House Committee on Judiciary and Governmental Operations recommends that the House pass the bill in the form of House Bill number 2382, House Draft 1. So moved.
Thank you, floor leader. A motion has been made for the adoption of Standing Committee Report 23-70, and it has been seconded. Any discussions? Ready? All in favor to adopt the Standing Committee Report, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. Standing Committee Report 23-70 is hereby adopted. Floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the adoption of Standing Committee Report number 2371, reporting on House Bill number 2383, entitled "To Authorize the Secretary of the Department of Lands and Natural Resources to Approve Licensed Veterinarians." The House Committee on Judiciary and Governmental Operations recommends that the House pass the bill in its current form. So moved.
Thank you, Floor Leader. A motion has been made for the adoption of Standing Committee Report 23-71, and it has been seconded. Any discussions? Ready? All in favor to adopt Standing Committee Report 2371, please say aye. All opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. Standing Committee Report 2371 is hereby adopted. Floor Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the adoption of Standing Committee Report number 2372, reporting on House Bill number 2371, entitled "To Provide Disclosure Requirements Upon Transfer of Ownership of a Vehicle Rebuilt from Salvage." Your House Committee on Judiciary and Governmental Operations recommends that the House pass the bill in the form of House Bill number 2371, House Draft 1. So moved.
Thank you, Floor Leader. A motion has been made for the adoption of Standing Committee Report 23-72, and it has been seconded. Any discussions? Ready? All in favor to adopt the Standing Committee Report, please say aye. All opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. Standing Committee Report 23-72 is hereby adopted. Thank you, colleagues. That takes care of the Standing Committee reports. We move down to item number 13, reports of special and conference committees. We have none. Item number 14, unfinished business. We have none. Item number 15, the resolution calendar. We have none. Item number 16, the bill calendar, and I would like to recognize the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I now move for passage of House Bill number 2382, House Draft 1, under Standing Committee Report number 2370, a bill for an act to amend the Fire Safety Code to apply the International Fire Code guiding standard in the Commonwealth. So moved.
Thank you, floor leader. A motion has been made for the passage of House Bill number 23-82, House Draft 1, and it has been seconded. Any discussions? Recognize,
Calling for recess, Speaker.
okay, quick recess.
I thought we're gonna leave this.
We'll rise back to session. Before we went to recess, we had a standing motion, which is for the passage of House Bill 23-82, House Draft 1, and we were under discussion, and the discussion is still ongoing. So any further discussions? Ready? All right. And with that, clerk, please call the roll.
Representative Fata,
Yes.
Representative Baudon, Representative Fatal,
Yes.
Representative Benavente,
Good.
Representative Angelo Camacho,
Yes.
Representative Diego Camacho,
Yes.
Representative Joel Camacho,
Yes.
Representative Vicente Camacho,
Yes.
Representative Castro,
Hungan.
Representative Joseph Flores,
Yes.
Representative Marissa Flores,
Yes.
Representative Manglonia,
Yes.
Representative Vogel,
Yes.
Representative Omar,
Hungan.
Representative Probst,
Yes.
Representative Sablan,
Hungan.
Representative Nicolas, Representative Yanktamay,
Yes.
Representative Yumo. Mr. Speaker,
Awed.
Mr. Speaker, all 20 members present voted yes.
Thank you, clerk. With all 20 members present voting yes, House Bill number 23-82, House Draft 1 hereby passes the House. Floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Now move for passage, House Bill number 2383, a bill for an act to authorize the Secretary of the Department of Lands and Natural Resources to approve licensed veterinarian. So moved.
Thank you, floor leader. A motion has been made for the passage of House Bill 23-83, and it has been seconded. Any discussions? Ready? Okay, clerk, please call the roll.
Representative Vada,
Yes.
Representative Baudon, Representative Fatal,
Yes.
Representative Benavente,
Hungan.
Representative Angelo Camacho,
Yes.
Representative Diego Camacho,
Yes.
Representative Joel Camacho,
Yes.
Representative Vicente Camacho,
Yes.
Representative Castro,
Yes.
Representative Joseph Flores,
Yes.
Representative Marissa Flores,
Yes.
Representative Manglonia,
Yes.
Representative Vogel,
Yes.
Representative Omar,
Hungan.
Representative Probst,
Yes.
Representative Sablan,
Hungan.
Representative Nicolas, Representative Yanktamay,
Yes.
Representative Yumo. Mr. Speaker,
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, all 20 members present voted yes.
Thank you, clerk. With all 20 members present voting yes, House Bill number 23-83 hereby passes the House. Floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I now move for passage, House Bill number 2371, House Draft 1, under Standing Committee Report number 2372, a bill for an act to provide disclosure requirements upon transfer of ownership of a vehicle rebuilt from salvage. So moved.
Thank you, floor leader. A motion has been made for the passage of House Bill number 23-71 HD1, and it has been seconded. Any discussions? Ready? Okay, clerk, please call the roll.
Representative Vada, Representative Baudon, Representative Fatal,
Yes.
Representative Benavente,
Hungan.
Representative Angelo Camacho,
Yes.
Representative Diego Camacho,
Yes.
Representative Joel Camacho,
Yes.
Representative Vicente Camacho,
Yes.
Representative Castro,
Hungan.
Representative Joseph Flores,
Yes.
Representative Marissa Flores,
Yes.
Representative Manglonia,
Yes.
Representative Vogel,
Yes.
Representative Omar,
Hungan.
Representative Probst,
Yes.
Representative Sablan,
Hungan.
Representative Nicolas, Representative Yanktamay,
Awad.
Representative Yumo. Mr. Speaker,
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, all 20 members present voted yes.
Thank you, clerk. With all 20 members present voting yes, House Bill number 23-71, House Draft 1 hereby passes the House. Thank you, colleagues. That takes care of the bill calendar. We now move down to miscellaneous business, and the floor is open. Recognize Representative TJ Manglonia.
I just would want to take a moment to thank you guys, my colleagues, for passing House Bill 23-82, House Draft 1, to amend the Fire Safety Code to apply the International Fire Code guiding standard in the Commonwealth. I would also like to thank Chairwoman Marissa Flores and the JGO Committee, as well as Chairman Ralph Yumo, for working together to get this passed on to the Senate. This is, one small step into creating more efficiency and streamlining our processes when it comes to, business permits and licensing. So thank you guys, and I hope that the Senate, can work out whatever other amendments needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Manglonia. Any further under miscellaneous business? Ready? Recognize floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and colleagues. I just want to mention that a recent article in the paper that came out in the Tribune with an interview with Chairman of Ways and Means, Ralph Humel, our powerful chairman. He had mentioned that there was a shortfall this quarter by the tune of $5.3 million. And that is very alarming news. I say that because, as he mentioned, we are, if we don't change this trend, if we don't see more revenue coming in, we're looking at a possible $20 million shortfall. And this is extremely alarming. I think at this point, Mr. Speaker, we really need to reach out to our governor and the business sector, and including our Senate counterparts with Senate President, and have a formal discussion on what we're going to do moving on from here. We can't just accept this trend and expect a $20 million shortfall. The question is, how do we change this? And I think we have to really, everyone work together in this. I'm asking for all of us members to work together, and that includes our leadership in the minority, with everybody pulling and working together. Guys, this is critical. The last thing that we want to see is more hours cut. It's just, or jobs cut. People are hurt. Our families are hurting. And we need to do everything we can to bring in these tourists. I say this because it seems almost a contrast to what we're seeing in Guam. Had a friend that was passing through Guam that couldn't even get a hotel room because they were full. We're at 30% occupancy. So I just wanted to mention that, Mr. Speaker and colleagues. I urge us to prioritize this and consider, like you said, putting together a formal working group. Thank you.
Thank you, floor leader. I recognize Representative Roman Benavente.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With regards to a lot of these bills that we've been passing in the past and even up to now, I was looking at it and I feel that a lot of the shortfall issues, I think we should work together to try to beef up the enforcement on all different areas of the government so we can start collecting taxes and fees and other revenues that's available, so we can put it into our coffer and finance. We can upkeep the budget as the shortfall comes along. Malaguzo na songan kita gwinis, Mr. Speaker, daw matungo ni tauto. Kasi siya na biyo itapapas giman mapus. Sige dati di tapas usung ibiyo. Law enforcement ipo ma-enforce saylay ni poro maprotehe dyan na biyo. Ti kababalis hujung. Pus gininaw na hujung fafasinam dyan todo. Ita ni manggagi gini pues ng Kongreso sa ti parahitas ti. Para man mamela siya na famagunta. Pus malada tagini tatsogi. Tanoy animo that to spend penyo after mano ni ta jure administrasyon. Jau beef up enforcement. Masya on all the different areas of enforcement, whether Fish and Wildlife, BECQ, todo lugar ni sinya man mangulek sa lapi. And no, Mr. Speaker, si just mosi.
Thank you, Representative Benavente. Representative Manny Castro.
Just to add on to what Representative Benavente mentioned, in addition to beefing up enforcement, we also need to sit down with the business community as well and look at some of our laws and deregulate them. Some of these laws are a barrier to business success. We also need to amend it to make it easier and more convenient to pay taxes. And then at the same time, look at the data, because the numbers don't lie. There will be some bills that I'm working on right now. I'm meeting with customs and some of the members of the business community to kind of really look at some of these like taxes in general and see how we can beef up one side. So one side, for example, if we can, when I say deregulate, sometimes when we deregulate one portion of the tax, it increases the other side. So, and with that, we'll also need additional enforcement. So, for example, the BGR, we help the businesses in the beginning as they're starting, and we, with their success in sales, it's gonna be a successful side on the BGR side. But if we don't have the adequate staffing at tax and revenue to assess the BGR side, then it's not going to work. So I look forward to working with all of you guys, and hopefully our Senate counterparts can also really look at the bill. Because some of the bill, for example, Rep. Marissa's bill for Pugwa, it's not popular in some cases, but it has a lot of benefits, not only to the hospital, but it also has economic benefits to our farmers. So if we can get more of our people to increase production of Pugwa on island, that's going to improve the BGR status. So reducing our imports helps the economy. So before we even focus on export, reducing things that we can increase entrepreneurial spirit within our municipalities. So thank you again, Mr. Speaker. But another thing is zoning. We need to really look at zoning. And when I say deregulate, I'm not saying to abolish, but we may need to put zoning under Department of Public Works with building code. So it's these kind of ideas that we're not trying to eliminate jobs, but we're trying to streamline the process so that it helps everyone. Thank you again.
Thank you, Representative Manny Costro. Representative Vincent O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So let me jump off the cliff over here for a minute. All right. So the great President Ronald Reagan, in one of his speeches, he said it best in 9 or 10 words. And I quote, when he said, the worst thing you could hear from a government official is to tell the public, and I quote, don't worry, we're from the government. We're here to help. End quote. Now, what that means is that when the public demands the government to provide any kind of service, okay, best believe, like they say on Wall Street, there's no such thing as free lunch. There's nothing free. And the people have to understand that the more that you demand from the government, guess where that government is going to get that money to pay for the service or the product that you are asking for? Through taxes. Majority of it is through taxes. Now, if the private sector and the public at large do not want to pay more taxes, then stop demanding too much from the government. So every single one of us have to help each other. It's not just the administration, it's not just the legislation, and it's not just the private business sector. Everybody. That's to include the household. It costs money to clean up every village. It costs money to remove junk cars. It costs money to gather stray dogs and cats. It costs money to clean up storm drains because there's a lot of trash floating around in the villages. And if you demand for the government to clean it up, then stand by to start paying higher taxes. The taxes are supposed to help the community, yes, absolutely. But when the public at large is not doing its part in cleaning up their fair share, then I'm sorry to say, but it needs to be taxed. You dispose of your vehicles or your garbage in a proper manner, then that means the less that the government has to go out there and clean up after you. So be responsible and let's all act like an adult and get our act together. You don't want to pay taxes? Do your part. Clean up after yourself and take care of things after yourself. If you see something wrong, you report it to the proper authorities and you follow up. If you need to contact somebody to make a report, then by all means do so, but do not just complain and not do anything about it, but just complain. If you don't want to pay taxes, then do your part. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Vincent Ondan. Representative Marissa Flores.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I guess in line with the sentiments of all those that spoke before me, I do agree wholeheartedly with pieces and portions of their statement. Restructuring and reorganizing is not a bad idea. I think it's a great idea. And I think that it could possibly improve the obvious systems that have failed and the current systems that don't work. The times have changed, and we need to beef up in our enforcement, which I know that everybody that's working for the government takes their job seriously. But the problem is we're underfunded. There's never enough money. In line with that, people, just like any business, behave when there are standard operating procedures. They know how to do their job. From the cashier all the way back to your general manager, everybody has a function. Unfortunately, many times, because of different administrations and whatever, people that have been there in the front line, let's just take tax, for example. They've been doing their job 2-3 years. Then all of a sudden, they're gone. Then the turnover begins. Then you got to retrain and retrain. Part of that is leadership. The leaders that are in charge of ensuring that these systems work, train these people. Lead your team. Understand your rules. If you don't have the rules, start promulgating them, because what I've noticed is that there's a lot of agencies that still lack promulgation of rule. The most current is the most obvious, the health network system. We are still waiting for them to promulgate their rules. Still has not been done. So those things are crucial, because that will at least enable the legislature to come back and have a conversation with the department head and say, is it working? What are your current rules? Does it work? Ask the community if it works for them. And many times right now we see it. It doesn't work. The system has failed our people. Our people have not failed us. It is the current system that's not working. We need to figure out a way to fix it. And it's unfortunate, maybe some people don't want to give up that power. But if we are going to pass the torch down to the generation after us, then we got to do something. The times of being complacent, it's done with. We need to stop that old-fashioned style of thinking and move forward. If our children are moving forward, but we're still at 1905, what is going to happen? Nothing is going to work. Nothing, absolutely nothing. So I do agree with Floor Leader, and I do agree with Congressman Benavente and my two other colleagues. I ask the general public, especially those in public service, help us create a better environment for the business sector and for everyone that relies on each agency's performance to do its function, so that we can improve our system and improve and streamline what needs to be streamlined. We have great laws. There's a lot of good laws, but there's a lot of other problems that come with that. Lack of promulgation of rules, lack of proper training, lack of leadership. We can't blame the frontline worker, the most mediocre person in the agency, whether it be a cashier or data entry. They do their job. but it's leadership to train these people at the very bottom of the food chain to appreciate their job, appreciate the government, and appreciate our home. That can't be done with lack of leadership. It just can't. It will not work. So I beg the leaders of each agency, work with your people. Help them because they're crying out for you guys to help them. Train them. Take that extra step. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield.
Thank you, Representative Marissa Flores. Any further under miscellaneous? I recognize Representative Julie Ogo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I share the same sentiment with the rest of my colleagues here in regards to our responsibility, to enforce our tax laws. Just earlier this week, I released a press release regarding the sales receipt law. I encourage businesses and consumers, most especially with the businesses, to stay honest and to report their business revenue accurately by recording their daily business transactions, and to keep those receipts in case of any random auditing. Now, we already invented the wheel for sales receipt. Part of the problem of our revenue shortage is because businesses are they underreport. I'm not saying all businesses are unfaithful as far as reporting their tax revenue to the CNMI coffer, but I do encourage them to ensure that they are accurately reported, issue receipts to the consumers. And I also urge the consumers that if they encounter any company or businesses that do not issue receipts but are provided the service or sold a product, to demand for a receipt. That receipt, and it has to be all in sequences. If businesses don't collect, and being honest to report their taxes, this is one of the problems that's causing our revenue to be short in our revenue. So with that, I've encountered several stores. I've been randomly auditing myself, testing them, and there are many stores that either don't issue receipts at all, or they just give you an ATM transaction receipt, which is, invalid receipt. It's not a sales receipt. Or they will ask the customer, do you need receipt? It's not the customer's responsibility to ask for the receipt. It's the business's responsibility, and it's the law to issue receipts to each transaction. So, I also urge our community to be vigilant with our laws, our tax laws, and also the businesses. I encourage them to, follow through with all the tax regulations and policies and laws that's affecting their businesses. There are consequences. There are penalties and consequences. Is it worth it? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Julie Ogo. Any further under miscellaneous? Ready? All right, we move down to announcements. Any announcements? Recognize Representative Marissa Flores.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tax season is coming up, and I urge the people of the CNMI to please, before the chaos begins, reach out to and proceed to Reventax and see if there are anything, are there any discrepancies with your taxes so that it won't cause hold up on your return. I know that they're migrating to a new system, which has yet to be tested. But because of this migration, it might cause a backup because each individual has a portfolio, and each portfolio needs to be updated in order for you or any taxpayer to avoid any discrepancy and hold up in your rebate or your return. So I urge you guys to please go to Reventax. They are willing to work with everybody to ensure that your portfolio is up to date, and that if there are any discrepancies, you can address that before you start making your filing, so that your filing is complete, your portfolio is complete, and therefore not holding up any errors or your tax returns. On a second note, Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Senate conducted its public hearing on the tax bills that were introduced by the House and passed. I have to commend the young adults who were there in support of 23-41. It took a lot for these kids. I stood out there when I came back in at about 4 o'clock to get some stuff from my office, and they were practicing their speech. And I thought, what a beautiful thing to see. Young leaders of tomorrow coming up here, taking their time to come and advocate for change. And while many of us look at them as they're non-voters or what have you, these are the kids that we are now trying to mold. And the fact that they were there, and the fact that they even mentioned to me outside that we are doing a great job in the House of Representatives, I was quite moved. I was moved. So to the children, the young adults out there in high school and in college, continue to advocate, to continue to use your voice as a medium for change, and continue to dialogue with your leaders, and have an open conversation about how you would like to see your future, because your future is not in our hands. We can help design what that future looks like, but the future belongs to you. And since you have already decided to have the courage and bravery to speak in front of your Senate leaders, that only goes to tell me that there's many of you out there that are brave and are courageous to stand along your elders and help mold the CNMI to a better place for all, and a better place to live. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield.
Thank you, Representative Marissa Flores. I now recognize Representative Yanktamai.
Thank you, Chair. All right. Yes, Speaker. Just an announcement for the women here and everywhere. Proclamation signing for Women's Month will be on March 1st, 10 a.m. at the multipurpose. All women are invited. And it's also for International Women's Day. So if you have your traditional attire, it will be great if you come in them. Thank you.
Representative Vicente Camacho.
Just so you know, it's a 3-day weekend. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. Oh, there's a checkpoint announcement? No? Okay. Any further under announcements? Ready? Okay, I recognize the floor leader for adjournment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Subject to the call of the speaker, I move for adjournment.
Motion has been made for adjournment and it has been seconded. Any discussions? All right, all in favor to adjourn, please say aye. All opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. Session's adjourned. Thank you, colleagues.